Hi everybody, welcome to the Builder Dad Shop. I am Builder Dad Dan and this is my shop. Now you might be asking yourself, why am I here? Why am I on YouTube? And why should you follow me over some other people? And the answer is as simple as, well, I'm unique. Now, how am I unique is the question. And like a lot of you, I have been at woodworking now for 11 years. I started with one project as kind of that gateway into it. For me, it was a cabinet for a bathroom. It was something that I had a space that nothing else could fit into. And so I had borrowed a miter saw from my mother. She had purchased a Craig jig for me. And so I had gotten that miter saw, the Craig jig, some store-bought lumber, and I made my first cabinet. And it was really exciting. I got hooked. And so I went from that to, next thing you know, I had a DeWalt miter saw. Then I picked up a Ryobi table saw. And I converted a space in my garage. And so my first shop was in the garage, in this little space that I had made for it. And I really got to explore some ideas and some stuff. Now the problem was winter was setting in. It gets cold in Ohio, so I didn't want to work in the shop, and so I converted a section of my basement into a woodworking palace, if you might say. And so it started off with just a few pieces of equipment, and it's grown into what you see behind me. This shop is really just packed full of tools. It's changed over the years. I've removed walls, I've brought in new stuff. And so a lot of what I want to share with you is the journey that I've taken from that starting point to where I'm at now. Kind of, why do I have the tools I have? What tools do I use the most? What tools would I buy again if I had to? What would I do differently if I was doing this again and spending the money? A great example of that is my table saw. I have a saw stop now, and it's the industrial cabinet saw. But like I said, I started with a Ryobi. I went from Ryobi to General International, and then I went from that to saw stop. And so along that path, you know, I upgraded 3 times. Well, I lost a little bit of money along the way because I'd spent money on other saws. So would I have gone with the saw stop first? That's a question. The answer is, at the time, no, because I wasn't really sure if I was going to be into woodworking like I got into woodworking. But now that I'm into woodworking the way I am, yes, absolutely. It's a passion. It's something that I'm going to do for the rest of my life. It's something that I hope to eventually build a new building and move out of my basement and really kind of make this passion stick with my kids, so that the things that I build here, you know, in the modern world we're in, a lot of people, myself included, I work on computers all day at work. And so the world is all about the computer, and I want to get past that and get back to building things that you can touch and feel. I write software, and you know, you can't touch and feel it. You can see it, you can interact with it, but it's not the same as a piece of wood. And so I really like woodworking, and I want to share that with you. Along the way, I want to share with you the ideas that I've had, the thoughts, and really how did I go from here or from there to here, and where do I want to go next? Part of that is this video. How do I introduce you into it? One of the things that's kind of held me back a little bit from sharing and doing a video like this is that my shop, if you can tell, is a little bit messy. I've got my Veritas shoulder plane out there right now. I've got some picture frames on the bench. I've got miscellaneous lumber around the shop for the next project. Again, it's a tight space, so I'm constantly pulling lumber in to warm up. I'm getting things prepped. I've got offcuts that are just getting stacked somewhere until I make something. And so I've got a lot of ideas on things to make. One of them is this little cool guy. So I made this last night on the scroll saw. I actually designed it in SketchUp. I think I saw a picture somewhere, and that's how I came up with the idea. And so I'm gonna make this, and that's one of the things that kind of I thought about. Why not make a video where I share with you the template, I share with you how I did it with, if I was going to do it with a scroll saw, a band saw, a jigsaw, and how would I go about making that, and then how could you make it better. One of the things I was thinking about was actually sharing with you. So I do this as a business now. I've been at it for 5 years. And one of the things that I always notice is that other woodworkers don't share the cost structure. Like, what does it take to think through the product? So like I said, I write software. Well, I write software for manufacturing. And so there's a process to it. And so I've been doing that for 19 years now. And so one of those things that differentiate myself, I have this thought process in my mind of how things flow through a process. And the cool part about when you're in manufacturing is that everything has a cost assigned to it. Whether that's a variable cost, like a box is going to change costs and things like that. So I actually build spreadsheets to itemize each portion of the operation. So I make sure that when I'm done building something, I didn't lose any money, but I deliver it to my customers with the best value possible. So one of those things I have to pay attention to. So like I said, I have this business, right? I've been at it for 5 years. I have an Etsy site. I have my own website, and I can sell through other portals, either direct or like direct in person, like a craft show, or through other means, Facebook and things like that. And so for me, when I look at this, one of the things that I just thought about the other day, and I expanded on my spreadsheet, and a great example of it is I do the DeWalt planer modification. I realized as I was looking at that, I was losing money, not so much on the make itself, but I was losing money on the transaction fees. So what I figured out was that I was actually not making enough money to cover all the processing fees associated with Etsy. So I looked at my spreadsheet and I realized all I had to do was tweak it by a few dollars and I could make that money back and not lose anything. And so those are the things that I kind of want to share with you and kind of explain, because it's something that I realized I wasn't capturing. And so the old adage that I've always been exposed to was, well, you take materials times two or three times materials should cover all your costs. Well, what I realized is that there's more than just that. Every time I turn these machines on, I've got X amount of electricity costs being covered. I've got lights on right now, and so those lights cost money. And so the one thing you have to think about is, how do you cover all of those costs? Because the one thing you don't want to do is, while it's fun to woodwork, you want to make sure that you're not just getting paid for your time, the materials, but all the incidentals that are going into it, even such that the transaction fees are covered. And so those are the kind of things that I want to expand on. So future videos look to see, how do I build stuff? How do I look at the things that I'm doing? How am I going to improve the space I'm in? And in addition to that, how do I improve my process flow? How do I improve the accounting flow of everything to make sure that I'm accounting for things correctly? Because even on top of all this, we forgot about the IRS. And so the IRS at some point is going to take money out of me as well for this, because this is on top of another income that I have. So I've got to pay them as well. And so you've got to keep a mind on all those things to make sure that when you sell something, you're not just selling it for the amount to cover the cost of the wood, but you're covering the entire transaction cost. So Etsy's costs, your own website's costs, Stripes if you use Stripes as a payment processor. So how do you cover all those costs? Cover the tax man cost. And in addition to that, all your miscellaneouses. I know that I read an article in Wood Magazine long ago, and in that article it talked about making sure that once you became a business, you covered yourself with insurance. And so that's another cost that I have to cover. And so you've got to think through all those different aspects. So there's things that you want to do where you want to sell them a little bit cheaper to kind of get your name out there. There's times where you need to make a little bit more money to cover everything. And so how do you look at all that stuff? Now, I won't admit that I'm perfect in any of this, but it's been a journey. I've got my thoughts, my ideas. I've got my ways of growing things. And so I'm still learning and adapting. I can look around my shop and I can tell you the number of things that I'm going to do differently from now to the next 5 years from now are going to be way different. I have a CNC machine that unfortunately has been sitting for 2 years and I haven't really done anything with it. Not because I'm not excited about it, but because every time I step into my shop, I've got something else to do. And so the CNC, while it should be a priority, has not been prioritized in my life. And so now I need to get on that and get that prioritized. So this kind of informal video series, or I don't know if it's a video series, I don't know what it's going to be yet, but it's me introducing myself to you and hopefully adding value to you, your shop, and your brand as I add value to my shop and my brand. So stick around, subscribe to this video because there's going to be more videos to come, and I hope that we can grow together. So till next time, have fun, keep woodworking, and stay positive. We'll talk later.